Hello, everybody. We are live. Welcome to another fabulous edition of Self Publishing Insiders. Today, I am honored and thrilled to welcome my friends and colleagues. I've got Dan Wood, our Chief Operations
Hello.
Officer. No.
Hey, everybody.
And I've got Tara Robinett, who is our featured guest from time to time. We're trying to get her in more often, but Tara leads our fabulous customer support team. Hey, Tara.
Hi, guys.
Hey. So today we're here to talk about where we are with this migration of Smashwords accounts over into the Drafted Digital platform. So as a reminder, I thought I would kind of set the background and maybe provide some foundational knowledge to authors who may be newer to Smashwords or even to Drafted Digital to talk about what happened in March of 2022. And for those of you who may not know, back in March of 2022, Drafted Digital announced the acquisition of Smashwords. So we had two of the largest self-publishing platforms coming together as one. That was March 2022. And with that, we communicated at the time that this integration of merging one company with another company was going to take some time, and that we were going to try to do it in three separate phases rather than just kind of doing everything all together at once and seeing what happens. No, we have to do it in phases to make sure that we can do it as seamlessly as possible. Phase one, we communicated, was that we would enable Drafted Digital authors to be able to get their books distributed into the Smashwords store. That was completed in December of 2022. So if you're an author and you have your books already in Drafted Digital's platform, you can have your books migrated into the Smashwords store. If you haven't done that yet, go for it, because that way you can participate in the Smashwords annual sales and just get your books in front of more readers. The second phase that we communicated was that Smashwords tools would be available to Drafted Digital authors. One of those phases, or one of those tools that I feel like authors are most excited about, are coupons and the coupon manager tool that were brought over from Smashwords and to Drafted Digital. So that happened in April of 2023. So when those first two things were taken care of and completed, now we're into the more of the heavy lifting, right? We're now we're into the fun part. We're into the guts. We announced that the third phase would be the migration of Smashwords author and publisher accounts into Drafted Digital's publishing system. So let's talk about, why does this integration need to happen in the first place, you guys? So why are we so focused on this right now? Why are we devoting so many resources to making this integration happen? And why are we so focused on its completion? What do you think? Who wants to start? Dan?
Sure. Really one of the big things that happened because of being able to merge the two companies is just the scale that it gives us, and the size opens up a lot of opportunities. Both Drafted Digital and Smashwords have always been about giving indie authors more and more options to publish their books.
Yeah.
So having that scale opens up some new places. We really, at the end of the day, want to give indie authors every advantage and every channel that a traditionally published author might have. And so we're building that. I think especially on the digital side, we're very, very close to parity. Print, there's a ways to go. There's some parts of the print supply chain that are weird. But that scale gives us a lot of advantages in working to open up things for indie authors. Second reason is it's not really viable for us to run two platforms to do the same thing. There's a lot of different coding. Smashwords, especially over the years, had a number of different developers. And so there's a lot of technical debt there, if you're familiar with that term, where there's just stuff that needs to be updated that they haven't been able to, just because developers are expensive and over time. And so we're kind of moving people over to the Drafted Digital system that is fresher, it's better maintained. We have a surplus of developers. We kind of started with several developers on our officer team, and so that's really kind of influenced the way we've approached everything. So with all those tools we built with our developers, it really gives Smashwords authors a lot of new options, including things like automated in matter, uh, different promotional opportunities that we just have a little bit more developed reporting on our side to help with promotions. Um, our kind of what I think is the best free EPUB converter out there. And then things like
Oh,
books to read, universal book links, all those different tools that have helped our authors sell more books.
And don't forget
yeah.
print and payment splitting. Those are two big things that I know our Smashwords authors frequently ask about and need access to. It would be impossible to rebuild those tools over on the Smashwords side. So getting our Smashwords authors moved over and offering them print, offering them payment split options where they can work with co-authors and anthology writers, and we'll do all of the legwork and the accounting to make sure everyone is paid the way your contracts are set up, and you just write. That's all you have to do. That is something that I know our Smashwords authors have asked our team and our support about many times in the past. So I think everyone is really looking forward to that too.
Definitely. I'm looking forward to getting more dev time on different tools and services. It's not just the tools and services that we offer authors, but also when neat things like these cool partnership opportunities come up, like with
Right.
what just recently happened with Fable, that takes some development resources too. And then eventually the whole, Dan, you were very diplomatic in the way you described Smashwords and Smashwords look and feel. But once we have some freed up resources there, then we're going to pour that back into the Smashwords store to make the Smashwords site just a better shopping experience. And I can imagine there's going to be even more DIY merchandising tools that will be unlocked and enabled. We've been talking about introducing some new sales, some new annual sales as well there too. We kind of touched about the scale of all of this already. So when the companies combined, there was, I think, Smashwords is bringing over well over 100,000 authors and publisher accounts, maybe closer to 200,000 accounts. So that's a lot of accounts. So I know there are some folks out there asking, why is it taking so long to migrate some of these accounts over? Can we talk about the scale just in general terms, and then maybe move into some of the complexity? Because it's not a matter, us marketing guys are like, well, can't you just put a couple of buttons on the site and click that and then we're all done? I've learned it doesn't quite work like that. So can we discuss some of the scale and the complexity that's
Sure.
involved?
Definitely. The scale is definitely a factor. But what I think it's important that everyone know is we are not, as we migrate authors, we are not delisting books and relisting books. I think we could have done this a lot faster had that been the approach, but we can't do that. We don't want to do that. Delisting and relisting, we risk losing reviews, rankings, the URLs, the UBLs, all of your newsletter links. Everything would be broken. We don't want to do that. That's a nightmare. We're not delisting and relisting. So that's part of what we have to take into account as we migrate these books is we're actually more or less picking up the information and moving it over to an entirely new website. It's not as quick or as easy as delisting and relisting would be, but it preserves all of your links, all of your URLs, your UBLs, your universal book links. No one is having to recreate newsletters and redo all of the work that they have built up over all these years. But many authors do ask us why they see, as their books migrate, why they see books listing or in a publishing status. You're being given the option to add new vendors each time we migrate accounts. So when authors take advantage of that and they do add new vendors, you're going to see on the Draft to Digital side the list of vendors that are live and active and published, but then you'll see in the secondary list saying these are the vendors that you've just selected, new vendors that are still publishing. So don't let that scare anyone. But as far as scale, there's a lot of complexities. With Smashwords having their own store, Smashwords was able to do a little bit more as far as things like specialized languages, specialized BISACs. They weren't having to do one-to-one parity between Smashwords and everyone else. They could do something unique all together because they owned their store. But that added complexity to the books. It added things that we have to now program for. We didn't have a store site, so now we're pulling in books with specialized languages. We're pulling in books with unique BISACs, and we have to program for that. We have to know how to input that into our system and how to share that information with the rest of our vendors. So there's levels of complexity. We started with our accounts that were the simplest, no complexity or very little complexity. Those
Can you talk about that a little bit more, Tara? Can you kind of define what that
Sure.
tier one of easiness
Absolutely.
is, I guess?
We've got some amazing developers that have been with us on Smashwords team all along. And what they're doing is they're actually taking all of the accounts and running through every possible hitch or bug that we can encounter. And then they
a fun job.
Oh, I can't even imagine, but we've got some talented folks that are doing this. So they're putting the accounts into buckets, accounts with 0 or very low complexity level. So these are just books that are live, and there's no accompanying drafted digital account, and we can literally recreate their account over onto the drafted digital site. We can pick up the stock numbers and move those on over. And it's just as simple as that. I say that it's not simple, but it's as easy as it sounds. But then you get into levels of complexity where over on the Smashwords side, to have multiple pin names, you had to have multiple accounts. Now we've got authors with several accounts, and they may even have an account over on Drafted Digital, and we're trying to now match content, match this account or these accounts all belong to this one individual, and we need to figure out how we're going to get everything moved over and on one side for them to see, manage, and view. So it does get very complex. And what we did is, like I said, we started with the easiest first. So I've had authors say, my friend's account got migrated. Why haven't I been invited? Unfortunately, yours might have encountered a level of complication that the friend did not have, but we're getting to everyone. Everyone will be migrated. Everyone will be invited. It's just a matter of time and complication level. So if someone else's account moved over before yours, doesn't mean there's anything wrong with yours. It's just we're still working on it. And then we're kind of doing it in sections so that we can test and as careful as we are, we may not think of everything. So that's why we run so many tests. We don't want to do anything wrong or mess anything up. So we're just being pretty cautious and getting it all done.
Yeah. So we've started this, and I think some people don't understand that this migration process is underway, and it began like late November, early December. We've sent out, I think, is it now over 70,000 invitations, and we've moved thousands of accounts over now. So this is happening, everybody, which I think is excellent news. Now, we're going to start automating some of these accounts. We started emailing some of our authors out there. Can we talk about some of that as well? Like why we decided to automate some of these accounts? Dan or Tara?
Yeah, we definitely just need to get accounts moved over. There are things where we have all the information we need, and so we can go ahead and start moving people over. With the ones that do get moved over automatically, we do urge you to look at some of the different payment options. With Smashwords, you really only have the option of being paid through PayPal. PayPal is one of the least efficient ways to get paid, and it's also an expensive way to make payments. Generally, depending on weekends or holidays, your payment through PayPal can get delayed somewhere between 2 to 5 days. So the fastest way to get your money is going to be like a direct deposit through international direct deposit or domestic, depending on where you're at. We've got options like Payoneer. That's still much faster than PayPal. Really the only thing PayPal is a little bit faster than is getting a check printed in the mail. And so we highly encourage people to look at another option besides PayPal. Just moving everything over just gives authors the opportunity to go to so many more channels. We've opened up a lot of different channels through Drafted Digital that Smashwords never offered. And so just making sure you're as wide as possible is another reason we want to get people over.
Great. I want to ask one more question and then bring up another question or start digging into some of the questions that are coming in from our community here. Is there a way that our authors can move themselves up in line, Tara or Dan, to make it a little quicker? How can they go about doing that?
That's a great question. If anyone is chomping at the bit and ready to go, definitely email our support team and we'll take a look. There are many exclusions that we've been able to work around. I had a gentleman write in the other day and he had a specialized language on his account. It was like British English, something that was only being offered through the Smashwords store. His language selected for his books were English, but he had defined it as British English. So the spelling might be slightly different. By simply changing it to English, I was able to get his account in queue for migration. So there's definitely, if you will email your support team, email us at support, we can always take a look and see. Sometimes the answer is we're still working on your account, but many times we can get you migrated the day we read your email. So definitely let us know if anyone out there hasn't received the email yet and is wondering why. We'd be happy to take a look.
Okay. Can filling out that questionnaire help speed up the process as well for those who might have that first invitation sitting in their inbox somewhere?
Definitely. That we have emailed that multiple times, and we've got a lot of people responding, but a lot of people still haven't. So definitely check your email. Look for an email from the Smashwords team. It's a questionnaire on migration. Depending on your answers, we can go ahead and get started getting your account moved over. So if you haven't yet, you have that email and you haven't yet responded, definitely do that.
Awesome. Thank you for that. I'm going to bring up a question here from HC Bentley. Thanks for your question, HC. For those of you who are listening and not watching, HC asks, how does this migration work for those of us who have the same titles on both platforms? And then she says, sorry if this has already been covered. That is to avoid duplicate listings.
So we are trying to handle all of that for you. So we're looking, we started with the easiest scenario for us is moving people from Smashwords who never had a Draft Digital account. We're moving more towards getting some of these that are more complicated, where someone has one account on Draft Digital and one or multiple accounts on Smashwords. There's a little bit of a difference between the way Smashwords, if I recall correctly, you couldn't have a separate pen name on one profile. And so you might have, if you had pen names, you might have 2 or 3 different account emails with Smashwords. We are trying to merge all of that together for you so you don't have to worry about it. So we're making sure that things don't get double listed. We're making sure to look and see which is the most recent version of the files, everything like that. So we are trying to handle all of that for you. We know just from comparing our list that there were already some duplicate titles where people didn't realize they had duplicated their title. And so we're also dealing with those cases. You know, we're defaulting to whichever one had the most reviews, different stuff like that. So we are trying to handle all that behind the scenes for you. If you have any specific questions about like a specific title, you can always reach out to us. But we want to handle that seamlessly so authors don't have to worry about it.
Perfect. I wanted to ask a question that I thought about earlier and then I forgot, but it just popped up in my head again. Are there any scenarios that either of you can think of when an author may not want to migrate right away? Maybe when it comes to pre-orders, for example, are there any other scenarios that you could think of where maybe you should wait for a little while? What do you guys think?
I can think of a few instances where I have talked to the Smashwords dev team, and it's a situation where they might have what are we calling it? Not the pre-order, but the
the pre-sale.
Yeah, the pre-sale. And we are still working to build out our coding to handle all of that as well. So there could be some titles that are on pre-sale that we may hold until it's out of pre-sale. But as far as pre-order, we've been able to migrate our pre-order books without any issues. We offer the same pre-orders. It'll continue to show on the Smashwords store as a pre-order. It'll continue to go up and live at the vendors that accept pre-orders ahead of the release date, but show it as a pre-order. So we've not encountered any issues as far as that is concerned.
Gotcha. And then I would add to that, any author, if you're still kind of on the fence about whether you should migrate right now, and you're not quite sure, send in a note. Ask us either to Smashwords support or Drafted Digital support, and we'll walk you through those different scenarios and help you make a decision. Let's bring up another question here. This is from Guillaume. Hello, Guillaume. Question. Apart from PayPal, are there any other alternatives? The reason I asked is because PayPal is not very secure and can get easily hacked. And I am based in the UK. So I think we covered a little bit of this earlier, but it's always worth repeating.
Yeah, we have direct deposit. If you have a bank account, we can deposit straight into your bank account, and that includes UK authors, international authors, everywhere. We also have Payoneer, which is another very secure payment method. Unlike PayPal, it's very secure. I don't know that PayPal is necessarily not a secure way of receiving payment. As far as our experience with it, it's just slower. It's the slower method to get paid. And the more expensive, they do have fees associated with payments. For direct deposit, we use Western Union, their business solution, which is a system called Convera. It's their business solutions. The fees are the lowest we have been able to shop, and we have shopped quite a bit. It's typically 1.5% to 2% of the payment. It's very low fees for most currencies. You've got a few kind of odd currencies that might be a little bit higher, but your normal currencies are very, very low fees. And payment is always very quick and very secure using direct deposit.
Perfect. Thank you for that, Tara.
One thing I was going to mention real quick, since we were discussing our payments, I've had many authors ask about their sales reporting history. What happens when they migrate over and they've got all of this history of payment? Don't worry, we are collecting all of that data, and we are keeping that along with your account on a Smashwords historical reports page, Excel spreadsheets that will keep everything for you. So you're not going to lose your prior history of sales. That has been a concern that's been brought up to us a couple of times now.
Excellent. I'm glad you brought that up. Let's bring up the next question here. From Mustafa. Thanks for the question, Mustafa. Mustafa asks, Smashwords published a book in several formats and was not limited to EPUB, but D2D publishes only in one format, which is EPUB. Why is that?
I'm going to let Dan explain that, but I did want to clarify. It isn't that Smashwords published in all of those different formats. They just made those formats available on the Smashwords store. You couldn't upload and publish a PDF. You couldn't upload and publish a Mobi. You had to continue to work with a Word doc or an EPUB to get published, but then they would convert it into those file formats. we continue to do the same thing and provide you with those same conversions. But as far as what you see on display at the Smashwords store will now differ. And I'll let Dan talk about that.
So the industry has consolidated. For the digital format is EPUB. Mobi is a dead format. So that we can really only publish. None of the places take anything. I don't even think Amazon accepts Mobi anymore, which Amazon was the people that originated the Mobi format, which was just a variant on an EPUB. So to get your book digitally anywhere, it had to be EPUB. We do publish in PDF, and so that's going to be on the print side, which PDF is a print format. PDF was never meant to be read on a device in the way that people have used it for the last 15, 20 years. We realize it gets used that way, but PDF is a print format. We distribute in PDF to everywhere that we distribute print. As far as what we accept Word documents in EPUBs and PDFs. We do need, if you just submit a PDF, we can't send that to any of the digital bookstores. We have to have either a Word document that we then convert to EPUB or an EPUB. We can do EPUB 2 or EPUB 3.
Yes.
As far as availability on the Smashwords store, which is a separate thing than publishing, the Smashwords store did accept many different formats, and people could buy like a PDF or a Mobi. Right. We're no longer accepting those as far as the platform. Your Mobi can still be sold on Smashwords, but you can't make any changes or anything to it for now. As far as will we support that indefinitely, I don't know. Smashwords as a store is really one of the last storefronts that's supporting some of those formats, and they are dead formats as far as the industry is concerned. So we might not always support those.
Well, and I know that we were getting our Mobis created through the Kindle creator. When they discontinue that, Mobi will be discontinued entirely. That's the only way to create it. But we will still, until that time, continue to provide the authors with those file formats. You can download and use however you want a Mobi or a PDF from our website. We'll continue to provide that to you. What we aren't doing is displaying that for anyone but you, the author.
Perfect. Let me bring up this question here from Karen, and we covered this a little bit, but this is another one of those questions where it's worth repeating. And I also want to say to everybody who's watching, thank you for these questions, because every time you ask a question, you're helping out your fellow author out there as well. Karen asks, for those of us who signed up for Smashwords with one email and D2D with another, how do we merge those two accounts? Call or email support?
That's a great question. When you get the invitation from your Smashwords email, one of the questions is, do you already have a draft to digital account? And what we're going to do is we are going to collect that data from you, your Smashwords account and your draft to digital account. And if you have more than one Smashwords account, we're going to collect that data from you. So we're working to actually combine and take care of this for you. But as far as what you do, you don't technically have to do anything. We're trying to do it for you. But when you get the questionnaire, you just want to fill it out accurately, include all of the information being asked of you, and then let our team figure out how to handle the merger. There are going to be some accounts that end up getting pulled in and separated. And in those cases, what we're doing is one-on-one with authors trying to figure out how they want that handled. But there are some cases where the names don't line up. You might have it on an LLC over here and on your own name over here, and we can't match the two. So when that happens, and if that happens, definitely contact support. Email us is best, and we'll work with you to figure out how you would like that handled. What do you want us to do? Some people are asking us to leave them separate, that they want the business account separate from the personal. So it kind of, we want to work with you and make sure we're doing what you would like to do.
Well, that's really cool. There's options, and we're not saying, hey, you have to do this now. We'll work with you.
Oh, absolutely. Right.
Okay, this is kind of related from Julie. Thanks for the question, Julie. She says, as of yet, I haven't received the invitation to migrate. Per the FAQs, that might be due to some complication in my account. I can't see what that might be. What can I do to help the process?
Definitely. Until I go and I look, I can't predict complications either.
Yeah.
And it's hard if you're not a programmer to even know what is a complication. I had one yesterday that was book annotations, and I had to ask the programmers, what does that mean? What is a annotation on a book? I guess it's notes being kept on. I'm not sure, but there are complications, and that just saying that phrase, complications, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Email your support team, either Draft2Digital or Smashwords. Smashwords support is still completely active and available, and they can look into everything on both sides. They can look at your Draft2Digital account, they can look at your Smashwords account, and we can help you figure that out. Again, some complications are super easy for us to address just by letting you know, hey, you have a specialized language on a book or whatever the issue may be. And we can often get that resolved over an email really quickly and then move forward with migration. So email your support team if you haven't received your request for migration, and we'll take a look and let you know what could be holding things up.
And again, like hats off to the developers, because they had to go in and test things and try to uncover all these bugs ahead of time, but they just didn't know like what was going to rear its head once we actually dove into this huge project. Just a quick shout out here to Matthew, who said, I like this video, and so can you. Matthew, you're hired. Make sure you show up same time, same place every Thursday. We appreciate you for being here. We're looking for some more questions here. And again, thanks to all the viewers out there for the questions and the comments so far. We really appreciate you guys. It helps move the discussion along, and it helps answer questions for everybody. Let's see.
Jim, I wonder if I could bring up one more thing that I'm getting asked a lot.
Always, please.
One of the questions that is frequently being asked from merged accounts is they're being offered new vendors. And so vendors they may not have had access to before.
Yes.
That does not include print. So when we say, would you like to be added into new vendors, print is not one of those new vendors. However, it's not because it's not available to you once you've merged your account over. It is. There's just there's some additional steps. You will need to actually look at and either give me a cover or instruct me on how, give me permission to use the ebook covers to make your full background jacket cover. So there's just some additional steps, but print is not one of those new vendors that is automatically opted in. For some authors, that was a relief because they may have already had their books in print through someone else. But for other authors, that was a surprise. And they were saying, I opted in new vendors, but I don't see my book in print. Additional steps with print, super easy to do. We have several step-by-step tutorials and blog posts on our site that outline how to do print. It's just a couple of extra steps and you've got print versions of your book. There's no upfront fees, no upfront costs. Authors are often saying, how many copies do I have to order to be allowed to do print? None. There's no fees, no cost. You have an option to order copies for yourself, but you're not required to do that. So just another little thing that keeps coming up is print won't be automatically opted in, but you are welcome to join our print program and get your books out there in print.
And you should. Just as a personal note, before the acquisition ever happened, before it was made public, and when I first learned about it from Mark Coker, Smashwords founder, he was like, wait until you see what D2D is doing on print. And he was right. We were so excited going into it. A couple more questions here. This one from Blaine. Hi, Blaine. Thanks for your question. Blaine asks, what is the timeline on the migration? I haven't received an invitation yet either. So maybe, are you asking, Blaine, like how long it takes once you begin the migration process for your particular account? Maybe, can we start with that? Maybe, Tara, like once somebody...
We're sending out waves of invitations based on,
Right.
We're looking at criteria and some of those complications in the background. And you might double check and make sure things haven't gotten lost in like a spam folder. But we are sending out waves. You can always contact our support at draftedigital.com to ask like if you're wanting to speed things up, and we might be able, depending on how complex your account is. Overall, we want to be done with the migration, have everyone mostly migrated by the end of this year. And so at this point, I think we've invited close to 80,000 people to migrate. So quite a few. There's a lot of accounts at Smashwords, and we've migrated over close to 10,000 of them already. But you can always, if you're interested in moving up the line, just reach out to us and we can see if you'll be eligible or not.
Perfect. This is a related question from Jillian. She says, how long approximately before accounts with many titles start being migrated?
We're not, we haven't, the number of titles on the account isn't an exclusion. So if you've got a lot of titles, not an exclusion. That's not a complication. That's not one of our complications. So we've already. It
was the first few months, like it was limited to 5. Yeah.
Okay.
But that's been lifted now for several months, and so
yeah, I think we've gone full steam ahead, and there may be other complications not related to the quantity, but we definitely we've seen some big accounts move over, so no worries there.
Nice. Okay, I'm going down the list here. Let's see. Oh, we got this question from Matthew. Can I print comics through Draft to Digital?
Definitely. We have many comic books. The only difference is it's not going to work perfect if you're uploading your own Word doc and having us convert into EPUB. Our conversion is still doing EPUB 2. For comic books, you're looking at a fixed layout typically. But if you have the ability to upload your own fixed layouts, absolutely. We accept those all the time. We publish those all the time, and we have a lot of comic books.
That's going to be a fixed layout EPUB. We have not really gone through and done like people make it work with comics, but we do not like specialize in that at all. We don't support color for the print, and so it's not a great fit for if you're looking at comics. You probably want to reach out into the comic book world. There's going to be services that specialize in that more. That being said, we do sell some comics in like the digital formats, and that is supported as long as you know how to generate the right file for it. There's a format called CBR. That's kind of, I think it's going away because Kindle bought Comixology. Comics are moving toward EPUB, but it's still not well supported within the industry yet.
Dan made a good point that our print is still a black and white option. The cover's in full color for full color printing, but the interior is black and white. We know authors would like for full color prints. That is something that we are looking to expand into. Some of the top request is print in color, large print, and additional trim sizes. So I think those are some things that you guys may be seeing coming soon, but we have them on our list of in-demand features that everyone would like to see.
Yeah, that's one of those things that we hope that when we free up some more resources, we can put more attention back on to D2D print as well. I think we already covered this question, but William arrived late, so we're here to accommodate you, William. William says, I arrived late. Are you just doing the people who don't have a D2D account right now in this first wave of migrations, I'm assuming?
We're doing a little bit of everyone now,
yes.
But we started with people who didn't have a D2D account.
So we're well underway, William. All right. Okay. I'm going to bring up this question from Matthew. Another one from Matthew. Matthew asks, can I offer more off my book than 55%? Absolutely, yes, you can, Matthew. You can discount your books down to free if you wanted to.
That's probably related to the wholesale print market, the 55 number.
Oh.
In which case, no. Right now, the
Okay,
margins around it
Dan.
with print on demand don't cover it with our system. We are looking at giving authors more options as far as the discount offered. That being said, we don't. We're not planning in the near future to offer returns on print. It's very risky for authors. So you can end up owing thousands if a bookstore orders a lot of your books and then pulps them. And so just something to be aware of, that we really aren't making things returnable for the print book market, which limits, there's some bookstores that will only purchase returnable books, but we just don't think it's in the best interest of authors and not catering to that market.
Yeah, that's a good point. I want to bring up another question here, but I'm not sure I completely understand. I'll bring it up anyway. Maybe we can kind of figure it out on the fly, because that's what we do when we're live. Jamsey Jones asks, will I be able to have an illustration or drawing right next to the words? I'm assuming this is probably for an ebook.
I'm not sure.
Or tech.
But okay. Either way, ebook or print, you are capable of providing your own files. And with an EPUB file, yes, you can insert text right next to words. Same with the PDF file. The PDF is what we use for print publication. If you're uploading a Word doc, I generally recommend your text be above or below your images, only because you've got to remember in ebook file format, you might be, your buyer might be viewing it on a screen as large as an iPad or as small as a phone. And when you put that image and then text right next to that image and they're viewing it on something as small as a phone, you end up with very skewed text, maybe one word and then it wraps to the next line. So it's one of those things that you need to think through. But if you were supplying your own EPUB file or your own PDF file, you can kind of design that to look the way you want it to look. So no issue there as far as there's no rules against it. You just have to think about the end user result and what they are going to see when they view it on a small screen, basically.
Excellent comment. I remember talking through some of that stuff way back in the very early days of
right?
2008, 2009.
We have a lot of very traditionally published authors who've been in print forever, and getting them into ebook and having them rethink through how ebook works so much different than print book. That has been one of an amazing part of our job, is just sharing that with some of our authors who they're just learning something totally new. They may have been a published author for decades, but they never touched ebooks. And so there's a learning curve there, definitely.
It's hard to wrap your head around that the first time when you grew up with print books your entire life, and to wrap your head around how my book is going to be consumed differently. What do you mean it's going to be consumed differently on the small screen? And what do you mean readers are in control of my book?
Yes.
That's exactly what happens. Okay. Well, we've got only a couple of minutes left. Here's another question. Get this one. I want to make sure I get to all the questions if at all possible. Mike, thank you for your question. Mike asks, how do you retire a book when it has been updated to a newer version? Good question.
That's a great question. I know on the Smashwords system, there was an archive option. Over on the draft to digital system, something very, very similar. It's a delist book option. It's literally a one button push right on your book dashboard. You can delist your book. You can leave it as a draft where it just exists on your account should you ever need it for any reason. Or once delisted, the next step is an option to delete it. But yes, we do make that available to authors. They often publish new versions and need to delist and retire older versions of their books.
That's perfect. I love how you can still see the older versions of your books if you wanted to when you have that newer revision. That's like, okay, that's not going to be gone.
Right.
Well, gosh. Oh, okay. So I'm going to try to get to one more question here, and then we're going to have to call it because we are already at time. And bring up this question from Julie. Since we're talking about older books, do the archived books get migrated?
They sure do. That was a question I asked right at the beginning because I know authors were worried about that. Yes, archived books are going to migrate over in a draft status. They won't be published, they won't be live, but they will exist and be visible to you on your account as a draft book.
Okay. And sorry, let me get to one last question here. Trying to just, because I know that there are so many questions regarding the migration. So I want to make
like a quick caveat to that also that you should be aware of.
Yeah.
We do have to, one of the reasons like archive books or things that have been delisted, we have to move them over is because sometimes a retailer will find that they messed up on payouts and it can be 6 months or a year or two later. And so we have to have all that information. Sometimes you might get like some additional royalties that were due because they got a conversion rate with currency exchange wrong at some point. When they go back in and they do their internal audits, sometimes they find areas where they didn't pay out enough. And so that's one of the reasons why you can't really ever delete a book, is because we have to be able to track and know this was paid out and then be able to make a payment to you if additional funds come in over time.
That's
Correct.
a great point.
Very good point.
Okay, final question here from American Finch. She asks, so for clarity, you only do black and white interiors. I have a book that I'm working on publishing that has about 45 paragraphs and they need to be in color. Will the ebook format be in color?
Yes, so long as your buyer is using a device that supports color. You've got your older e-ink devices that do not. And if they purchase and download on that device, they're seeing it in grayscale. So as long as your end user has a device that supports color, your ebooks will be displayed in color.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. We are at time. Tara and Dan, you guys are like the encyclopedias of Drafted Digital. I love it when you're able to join because it takes the pressure off, quite frankly. So thanks for being here. Really appreciate it. For all of you who are viewing, thanks again for joining week in and week out. Just know that we appreciate you and we appreciate your questions. Keep those questions coming. You can always email in to support if you have questions or comments once the YouTube video is posted. If you have any questions that kind of popped up in your heads after the fact, post them in there and we will get to them. Just a quick reminder, we'd love it when you like, share, comment, and subscribe to our channel because that helps us get the word out even further. And it helps us attract the industry luminaries out there who can provide you with more advice and expertise. Also, be sure to bookmark d2dlive.com so you can see who our guest is going to be next week and what the topic will be about. And then finally, for those of you who may be dipping your toes into the indie publishing waters for the first time, be sure to sign up for your free Drafted Digital account by visiting draft2digital.com. So once again, Tara, Dan, I want to thank you both for your time. To our viewers out there, thank you again for showing up once again. And if you guys can hang out in the green room, grab a snack or a drink, I'm going to play this quick 30-second spot for a D2D print. For everybody else, we'll see you here, hopefully at the same time next week. Thanks again, everybody.
Ebooks are great, but there's just something about having your words in print. Something you can hold in your hands, put on a shelf, sign for a reader. That's why we created D2D Print, a print-on-demand service that was built for you. We have free, beautiful templates to give your book a pro look, and we can even convert your ebook cover into a full wraparound cover for print. So many options for you and your books. And you can get started right now at draft2digital.com.